Hello, everybody. It is a great honor for us to host today Professor Klaus Dugi, the Chief Medical Officer, or maybe we can say Global Medical Director of Ferring Pharmaceuticals. Professor Dugi agreed to share with us his thoughts as to how large pharmaceutical companies are dealing with the current global health crisis. Before we will start the interview, I would like to ask Klaus to give a bit of background about himself. Please, Klaus.
No, thanks, Zeev, and pleasure to be here, and thanks for the opportunity to speak to the audience. Yeah, so as you said, I'm the Chief Medical Officer for Ferring here in Switzerland in headquarters. The role of Chief Medical Officer is a little differently defined in all companies. At Ferring, I'm responsible for global medical affairs, for drug safety, for quality. We also have a chief patient officer that reports to me, real-world evidence, health economics, outcome research, and something that we call the Global Innovation Lab, which is around electronic health, beyond the pill approaches, etc. Joined Ferring 2.5 years ago. The close to 15 years before, I spent with another privately owned pharma company in Germany. Most of my time spent there was in research and development, develop new medicines in various therapeutic areas. I also spent 2 years as the general manager in the UK and Ireland to see maybe more the commercial side of pharmaceuticals. And before joining pharma, I spent 6 years in Heidelberg University Hospital. I'm a physician by training, and in Heidelberg, I received my training in internal medicine and endocrinology. And before that, I spent 4 years doing basic research at the National Institutes of Health in Bethesda in the US. So that's me in a nutshell.
Thank you. So I have prepared a few questions, and I want to start by asking you that I understand that you are leading the Ferring Task Force addressing the coronavirus. So can you share with us how the situation is viewed from perspective of a global pharma company?
Yes, thank you. Obviously, this is an unprecedented situation. The WHO now, I think 10 or 14 days ago, declared this a global pandemic. This is a dramatic circumstance that, while there were always scenarios of a pandemic happening, we're now in the midst of one, and we see what kind of consequences that has. It's obviously a very volatile situation. The situation changes to a certain degree from day to day. But in these days, it's also important for management to stay calm, to be there for our employees, for our customers, for our patients. As you said, I have the privilege of chairing our coronavirus task force. And what we try to do there is kind of to stay ahead of the curve to a certain degree, kind of try to foresee what could happen next and how do we react to that. To give you a few examples, when it was clear that there were hotspots in the world, like northern Italy, where there was a higher incidence of cases, we had asked all employees coming back from these places to stay home for 2 weeks. We later had 2 employees that turned out to be COVID-19 positive, but because they had quarantined at home, they never saw other Ferring colleagues and could not infect them. Another thing that our colleagues from IT said, well, we may have to go at some point to work from home policy. Let's prepare for that. Let's increase the bandwidth. Let's order additional laptops. Let's find additional tools where we can connect virtually. And also we send an email out to all employees that, please take your computer home every day, your charging cable, your headset, because we may have to go to work from home policy at some point. So when we did, I think we were quite well prepared, and it worked quite well. So yes, there's hiccups from time to time, but overall, I think the working from home works quite well. And lastly, also 6 days after we implemented the work from home policy, we had a couple of colleagues here in headquarters that were tested positive, but because they had stayed home the last 6 days, again, there was no risk of infecting other Ferring colleagues. So is everything that we're doing perfect? Of course not. It's also for us an unprecedented situation. We have to learn from that. But by working cross-functionally in this task force with our HR colleagues, with legal, with manufacturing and product supply, with commercial operations, with our health and safety group, etc. We try to take the right decisions in a timely fashion. We meet daily, and so far, under the circumstances, I think it's going relatively well. And the last thing I would say is the importance of communication. So in real estate, you say it's about location, location, location. I think in a crisis, it's about communication, communication, communication. So every week we send an email to all our employees to update them where we stand, to give them resources that we have made available on internet pages. We've done a few videos to all employees. Last Thursday, we had a town hall of the executive committee where we gave a presentation, but then 40 minutes had time for question and answers. We're inviting people to have virtual coffees, etc. So communication and cross-functional collaboration are key to get through this crisis at Ferring, as in, I'm sure, almost all other places as well.
So as a global company, how you really manage with, production, distribution, sending material to pharmacy, sending material for treatment for physicians? How do you care about safety of the product that you are sending out? Because there's a lot of limitation. Transportation is almost nil. There is no communication between countries, basically in Europe. Borders are closed. So, how do you manage as a company that produces products and needs to deliver it?
Yeah, so that's an excellent question. When this situation emerged, we said we really have two top priorities as a company. One is the safety and well-being of our employees, and the other one is the continued supply of our patients with our medicines. Our mission is to help people live better lives. If they don't have access to our medicines anymore, that would be really bad. Put yourself into the shoes of a patient with pancreatic cancer who's been told by the physician, there's this drug that may help you live a longer life, and that's well tolerated, and him going to the pharmacy and saying, well, it's currently not available. Or young woman with inflammatory bowel disease who come to trust and rely on her medication to be have few symptoms, to be told the drug is no longer available. So that for us is the key business priority, to be able to keep manufacturing and supplying our drugs. So that's why also someone from manufacturing and product supply is a member of our daily task force, and we're doing everything also to protect our colleagues working in manufacturing, that they can continue to come to work. And you highlighted some of the challenges. So part of the reason why we went to work from home policy for the office colleagues was to separate them from the manufacturing colleagues, to make sure that there could not be any cross-infection there. We changed the workplace where we separated workplaces, where we put plexiglass boundaries, etc., so that also for the colleagues who go to work in manufacturing, that also infection risk is minimized there. We had to be creative with regard to, as you said, there's hardly any flights operating. So it's also nice to see how we can work together with other pharma companies, because we're all in the same boat. So we've chartered planes together with other pharma companies to transport, ingredients or products from country to country. So far, happy to report that all of our manufacturing sites are operating. A couple of them are at a slightly reduced rate, but at the moment, we are still able to manufacture and supply our medicines and bring them to patients. But it is a volatile situation. We have to stay on top of everything. We have to observe the situation on day to day and be able to be agile, take quick decisions in the interest of our employees, our company, and most importantly, our patients.
Thank you. I know that Ferring is active in various fields of medicine, but tonight, actually, we have people who are dealing with getting women pregnant and making babies. And I would like to know if there is any guidelines coming out from Ferring as a pharmaceutical company dealing with infertility and IVF, because there is a lot quite of controversies, around the world. What should women know about the coronavirus, about being pregnant, and about the outcome of the pregnancy? We know the ASRM statement, we know the ESHRE statement, but there is no any formal announcement by health authority regarding pregnancies in the general population. So how Ferring as a company and you as the medical director, the global medical director, actually guided, people in the field?
So it's an excellent question, Zeev. And yeah, as you know, reproductive medicine and maternal health is our key therapeutic area. That's the area where we want to be the leading company, the most trusted company in that area. So that's especially close to our heart in these difficult times. Also, fair to say that that's part of our business is currently the most affected because you alluded to the statements from ASRM and ESHRE advising fertility patients to not become pregnant at this time. So that's obviously also an important business risk for us. However, this is a sensitive topic, and it can't be up to Ferring to provide guidance to patients, to reproductive endocrinologists, etc. But what we can do is to support the dialogue. We can have a dialogue to patients, obviously not talking about our products, but about the situation in general via our excellent connections to the various patient advocacy groups. We are in constant dialogue, and we have a team working on that, discussing with the reproductive endocrinologists that we've worked with for many years, sometimes decades, and hear their opinions. And we hear also that some feel that maybe the positions from ASRM and ESHRE are maybe a little bit too far-fetching. There is also some pushback from some clinics that say, we are well aware of, in general, of infection risk. We can take the necessary precautions, and we also have to be cognizant of the fact that treatments cannot stop altogether. Let's put ourselves in the shoes of a woman who wants to have fertility preservation because she may have to undergo chemotherapy for cancer. She can wait 6 months. So that's important considerations. I think Ferring can only be a broker at this point to have the dialogue between patients, between the physicians, between the societies, and as you said, also at the end with regulators and healthcare systems. And an important topic is that you alluded to is also the science. What do we know at this point about vertical transmission, pregnancy outcomes, etc.? And it's an emerging situation. So the initial publication from China suggested there was no vertical transmission. Then I think there were a couple of cases in the Lancet that said, well, maybe it is possible. There's questions. It's certainly not determined at the moment, and we haven't to date, luckily, haven't seen any, at least to my knowledge, any difficult outcomes with infants that may have been infected with with the coronavirus. So there's a clear need to generate more data, and that's something that also Ferring can contribute to by maybe supporting studies, registries that give us more information. At the moment, I think what we hear from most physicians and societies that pregnant women should not worry too much. There's little evidence that there's harm to the babies, but it is an important area where we need to, as always, follow the science, and Ferring is more than committed to help generate data that hopefully then will put women, couples, physicians, and others at more ease with regard to starting pregnancies in this time of the coronavirus. But it's important to follow the science.
Thank you. Well, I want you to speculate a little bit, which I'm not sure it's the right place to do, but I'm sure that you had some internal discussion within Ferring. What do you think are the long-term implications of this global health crisis when it will be over? And obviously, one day it will be over.
Yeah, so that's, I think, a question that we all ask ourselves, and it's obviously very difficult to say. None of us has a crystal ball. But as you say, both privately and professionally, that's what we talk about, and what could be the long-term implications. I think that will depend on how this crisis will evolve. How many lives will be lost? What's the impact there on the loss of human life, which is obviously the #1 priority. But also, what's going to be the depth and the length of the economic recession? What will be the time needed for recovery? Because both will have impact on society and on our future. A few thoughts come to mind after this is through, and as you said, we will get through that. There's no doubt about that. It's just a question of when will that be the case. Then maybe in some countries more push for local production. That may have implications for globalization. So we saw a lot of the benefits of globalizations, but maybe there's also things that we need to take a step back and reconsider. I think people will see now, well, the world also can work to a certain degree with less business travel. Maybe there will be more work more remote working or working from home in the future. And there will be discussion on what's the right level of investment into healthcare and science, especially in those countries where not everybody has access to healthcare. What does it mean to them in such a crisis, and will there be any consequences going forward? So even though we all feel already the consequences and the change in our lives, we're still relatively early in this pandemic, and I would say it's quite difficult to say at this point what are the long-term implications. As I said in the beginning, in response to your first question, it will be critical for us as a business to try to stay on top of things, to observe what are the trends, what is changing, and also maybe see some opportunities to come out of this as a better company, more customer-centric, etc. So there's always opportunities, but that's in the future. At the moment, we have to deal with this health crisis and also with the economic implications.
As most of us staying at home, and actually this interview is being from home, and we are all isolated apart from going to hospital to work in shifts, not to meet each other as minimum as possible. How do you see, and by the way, all face-to-face meeting actually disappeared now from the globe. So how do you see and Ferring see future education or program education for physicians and patients? How do you think this will take place from now on?
So I think, again, an excellent question. My team approached me early on a few weeks ago and said, well, isn't it a great time also to provide training to our customers, to our healthcare physicians that we work with, because at least in some areas, and reproductive medicine is one of them, it is a time where not so many clinical activities are maybe happening, at least to a certain degree, and wouldn't that be a perfect time to use that for training, for education, for scientific dialogue, to discuss the latest publications, to discuss also maybe future trials, do training. We did a survey a couple of years ago with a lot of reproductive endocrinologists in several countries, and it was clear that there were areas where the endocrinologists themselves felt, well, that's maybe an area where I could get up to speed, where I could learn more of the latest science and learn from best practice sharing. So again, it's an opportunity for us to support others in seeing the latest scientific evidence, the latest guidelines, and to do training. So I think it's an excellent question. It's something that we're trying to be on top of at Ferring.
So, and what do you think about clinical trials? What will happen in the near future, in years to come, maybe months and years to come, about all the clinical trials that we used to do and work with the industry to do this? What will happen in this field?
Yeah, so at the moment we see a dramatic impact on that. So based on the ASRM and ESHRE guidelines that you've mentioned, basically all of our ongoing clinical trials, which are still recruiting patients, we had to put on hold. Also in other therapeutic areas, we see impacts that patients cannot go to their trial visits because the investigator site is closed or because they cannot travel, etc. It was good to see some guidance from the Food and Drug Administration, the European Medicines Agency on some flexibility, how to deal with that going forward, because there will be a lot of protocol violations because of that. And again, it'll be a dialogue between regulators, between investigators, between companies. How can we rectify the data and the scientific integrity of the trials, which is obviously important. We also have an obligation to patients who provide informed consent to participate in a trial, that we make these trials meaningful and that we learn something for science and for therapy. Going forward, again, it could be that we see more flexibility for what we call pragmatic trials, where patients may be recruited into trials from home and not have to go to investigator site, or maybe at least a reduced visit schedule, etc. More digital approaches. So yeah, I think clinical trials will also be an area where after we have tool sets, we take a step back and also maybe we learn something. Maybe there's more flexibility or more opportunity than we thought also with regard to clinical trials. But at the moment, it's a difficult time for clinical trials, especially in reproductive medicine. But as you said, once we get through this, we have to look at this and see how can we adjust, how can we change, and as I said, there may be opportunity in this as well.
And how do you see the cross-communication between the industry and the physicians today? Because, you know, there is no meeting. There will be a long time until we gathered again in a face-to-face meeting, hundreds of people in the exhibition of any congress, any kind of congress. So this will defer for, I think, quite a long time. It will take a long time for the world, you know, to start communicating closely between people. And we had quite a close relationship between the industry, the people of the industry. So is it everything going to be on the screen like as today?
Yeah, again, an excellent question. We have more than 2,000 customer-facing employees at Ferring, and pretty much every one of them at the moment is sitting home because of the travel restrictions, because of the restrictions to see customers. So they are using digital tools, remote connections, emails, phone calls, WebExes with their customers. Of course, it's important to follow the local compliance rules. You know, we cannot just send an email or call a customer, invite them to WebEx. We need to do this in line with the local healthcare compliance rules. But again, this may be an opportunity to see, you know, we don't always maybe have to travel to an investigator and sit an hour in the waiting room for 2 or 3 minute interaction. Maybe there are other ways that our customers, our physicians actually benefit more from, because some, you know, there will be some that will treasure the human contact, someone that no one interacted with for many years, and that's perfectly fine. Others will maybe say, you know, I really only have time after I'm done with my clinic to see someone, and I'm happy to do this, you know, via FaceTime or Skype or another meeting. Others would say, you know, I'm fine with just searching the internet or send me information if I request it to you. So again, I think Ferring, like many other companies, was already on a journey to a more digital approach to become more customer centric. And again, this coronavirus situation maybe amplifies and accelerates some of these changes. So that may actually be a good thing. So yeah, as I said, I think we may be able to better serve our customers through more flexibility with digital tools going forward. But there will be some who will also always would like and benefit from a personal contact. So I think there will be a mix of approaches, and we need to find out from our physicians and nurses and other healthcare professionals what is their preferred mode of interaction, of communication, what's the best way of them to learn. So yeah, I think maybe to summarize it, also in times of crisis, it is important to learn, to improve how we do things, to find opportunities to do things better in the future, to better serve our customers, our healthcare professionals, and most importantly, our patients.
Klaus, it was extremely interesting to have this interview with you. And presenting the industry. And before I say goodbye and we leave, do you have any encouraging message to my colleagues, in the field of reproductive medicine?
Mm-hmm. So yes, I think we will, as I said, we will continue to work together. We will find ways of learning from this. What can we do better in the future? I think we are in that journey together to help people realize their dreams of building a family. That will not go away. There may be, even now that we see also the downsides of social distancing, there may be more need for families, for contacts, for building relationships. So we will get through this together if we keep each other informed, work together, try to find opportunities, lead the science, as I said, that will help us maybe to come back to fertility treatments sooner than we maybe think at the moment. Important to lead the science. So yes, let's focus on the opportunities, on collaboration, on communication, the science, and let's seize the opportunity.
Thank you very much, and thank you very much for spending the time with us. And hopefully, in the near future, we'll be able to meet again. And I wish everybody to keep safe. Thank you.
Same for me, to everybody out there. Stay safe, stay healthy, and thanks to you, Zeev, for this wonderful opportunity to address your audience. Very much appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you.